everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are back on another episode of the Daily Recap. And folks, this was one of those days in the stock market. It's again one of those days that reminds you why you invest. Palantir has hit an all-time high. Nvidia back to the 130s. Palantir all-time high at 130. So Nvidia and Palantir a little bit of twinning today. Hoodie 63 on Robinhood. They acquired a company in Canada today. We'll be talking about that. CPI inflation came down for the third month in a row, 2.3 versus 2.4% expected. And then Nvidia, Trump, Saudi Arabia. We got a lot of money coming into the United States in investments in regards to AI, technology, defense technology, data centers, GPUs. It was a wild, wild day. A lot to get into. Let's get into it. All right, so I think we'll start off with Palantir. Let's start off with Palantir. Wild day for the stock. We ended, I think, at around 28 on the day. Started the day at around 121, so really started making that journey up about 9% higher to the 130s. And then at one point during the day, we did get to $130.60. We are still above a $300 billion market cap, 128.93 currently right now. Market cap at $302 billion. I mean, it was just one of those days. It was an incredible day. And you might be saying, well, wait a second, why is Palantir getting some of this momentum that it's getting today? Well, as I'm talking right now, you are seeing a video of Dr. Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, who is shaking hands with President Trump and the Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia. I don't think that's the reason alone for why the stock got to the momentum that it got today and got back to all-time highs. I think it has to do with a couple different headlines. So number one, we'll talk more about Nvidia, GPUs, what's going on with the Saudis, but there's a lot of AI excitement, or there was a lot of AI excitement today that hopefully carries into the rest of the year in terms of other parts of the world deciding that they want to become the AI capital of the world behind the United States. And they're committing in the hundreds of billions of dollars to being able to invest in the infrastructure that necessitates you actually having the data centers, the equipment, the GPUs, et cetera, that make AI feasible inside of a country. And essentially, I'm talking about Saudi Arabia making those commitments. So that in and of itself, I think, got the entire market to catch a bid. The S&P 500 was up 1%. But more importantly, it got stocks inside of the AI sector, the technology names that are seen as the pure play AI derivatives of how you should think about playing this market when it comes to AI. They got a bid. Nvidia being one of them that we'll talk about, but Palantir being on the software side. So from that perspective, I think the move that we had today was primarily based on the idea that the market is realizing once again that the tariff volatility from what happened in April with the trade war is not stopping the AI revolution. If it's not stopping the AI revolution, then there's going to need to be applications on these LLMs, right? There's going to need to be use cases from these LLMs. Those use cases are probably going to be instituted by a company like Palantir. Palantir's not going to win the entire market, but they're going to win a decent chunk of it. And the way they're growing, the acceleration of their government growth in particular, that is getting the market very excited. You had Bank of America that raised the price target from Palantir to 125 to 150. I mean, you know, you got an institutional analyst saying, hey, I think it's going to 150. And I think if you want to get in right now, your upside is there to that 150 level. I think the normalization of this stock in the triple digits hopefully is happening. I think we got to give it a couple months to see if it really takes place. But a dip now to 100 or a dip now to 80 or 90, yes, the valuation is aggressive. Yes, I'm not saying the stock is cheap, but a dip to 80, 90, that would seem like a real dip. The dip in February from 125 to 60 didn't feel like a real dip because 125 was there for like less than 2 days, right? It didn't feel real. Now, we've been normalizing the triple digits for almost a couple weeks now. I think about 2.5 weeks, and hopefully we get towards the next couple months of these triple digits to the point where if you were to get a 20, 30, 40% dip independent of the entire market, because again, when we fell from 125 to 60, it was the entire market falling from about 5,800 at these levels right now to 4,800 on the S&P. So if we were to get that dip again, I think a lot of buyers would be there saying, I want more exposure to Palantir. A lot of institutional buyers would say, wait a second, the Saudis are buying all these chips from Jensen. All the purpose of these chips is to be able to build LLMs that actually make AI usable in the enterprise, have a real implementation use case that spawns the ability to change the trajectory of a government, the trajectory of an enterprise, the margins, the efficiencies. All of that is software, not just the raw LLM. OpenAI is going to benefit from the LLM. XAI is going to benefit from the LLM. Nvidia is going to benefit from selling the infrastructure. But Palantir will be one of the handful of companies that are the use cases. And so if this is a multi-trillion-dollar TAM, I think today's announcements around what's going on with AI just got the market to be more excited. And as a result, You had Palantir hit all-time highs at 130. Congrats to everyone. I know a lot of people that, bought this stock when it was not 130. A lot of people have reached out. They've been watching the channel. I got the privilege of meeting a lot of you guys in person at the Toronto meetup, the New York meetup, the California meetup. By the way, we're doing a Boston meetup May 24th. I'm putting a link in the description. If anyone's in Boston, you can sign up for that. And so I just personally remember meeting all of you guys. And I have to remind myself that every time the stock goes up, even $1, there are millions of shares that are out there that have been on this journey, keeping up with this journey, being part of this community. And every dollar the stock goes up, a lot of you guys continue to not only accelerate your ability to get to financial freedom, but also you're able to do something with that money. Like some of you guys said, hey, I've sold some of my shares, paid off my mortgage. Like that's what the market's for. So very, very grateful for this entire community. Congrats to everyone on Palantir and hit all-time highs today. Absolutely incredible stuff for Palantir. All right, let's talk about the Saudis and what happened today with the Saudis. Well, a lot of things happened today, and that's why I think the market is also gaining the momentum that we saw. Nvidia gapped up about 7%, and the reason Nvidia gapped up is because the AI diffusion rule, which is a Biden-era rule that we talked about over the past, we talked about this really over the past couple of days in terms of, or really the past couple of weeks. The leak last Thursday was that the New York Times was reporting that Trump was going to get rid of the AI diffusion rule, which was the rule that said that the Nvidia was not allowed to sell into the Middle East. A lot of other export controls, but the Middle East was a big chunk of the clientele that they were not able to sell to. Well, Trump's getting rid of that, or at least that was the leak a week ago. And so we talked about it over the past couple of days. Today, it became official that Trump is getting rid of that. And as a result, Jensen was demoing the Blackwell architecture chip, the Blackwell AI chip GPU for a bunch of people in Saudi Arabia. And he announced right here, I'm reading from the press release, the first phase of deployment will be 18,000 NVIDIA Grace Blackwell AI supercomputer chips delivered to Humane, which is a subsidiary of Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. The public investment fund is where they get all their oil money and they invest it into a bunch of different companies. And Humane is the newest kind of AI subsidiary of that fund in and of itself. Humane will deploy the country's first NVIDIA Omniverse cloud to simulate and test physical AI solutions with digital twins. NVIDIA will strengthen the nation's computing ecosystem and train thousands of developers with the skills to solve complex challenges with accelerated computing and AI. And they will deploy up to 5,000 Blackwell GPUs for a sovereign AI factory and enable smart city solutions. Folks, that is right now tens of billions of dollars of revenue that has just been unlocked for NVIDIA. And I'm saying right now because Bloomberg and Reuters, this has not been confirmed, but they reported after the close today that based on the internal workings of the diffusion rule, Saudi Arabia might be allowed to buy 500,000 GPUs from now until 2027 per year, which would be about 1.5 million GPUs that NVIDIA would be able to sell into the kingdom. I mean, dude, like bullish, right? Like I'll be like, well, like it's bullish, right? Like there's no other way to slice it out. Nvidia hit 131 today. I think right now after hours it's at 131. Why is it hitting these levels? Well, the market's 131.47. The market's realizing, wait a second, we're losing some of the China revenue for now. Some of that China revenue might come back if we have good negotiations, but we're opening up all of this Middle Eastern revenue. Trump, by the way, got rid of his sanctions on Syria, which I think was a big win for the prime minister in Saudi Arabia, because he is looked at as one of the gems of the Middle East that's modernizing, getting the region to be ready for a world in which oil money is not the sort of core source of income. And so he obviously would want Syria to not have economic sanctions on them so that they have a chance for their people to achieve economic mobility. Trump gave him a big win today, and he responded by committing $600 billion of investments into the United States. A decent chunk of that money also getting ready to go into NVIDIA. And the first ever data center is going to be built in Saudi Arabia. NVIDIA announced this today as well. First data center will be 500 megawatts, and they're going to be working up to about 2 gigawatts of data centers by 2030. It's bullish. It's really bullish. It's bullish AMD. It's bullish Micron. It's bullish Dell. It's bullish SMCI. SMCI is up 20% today because they signed a $20 billion deal with a company called DataVolt. And that's going to, it's not really a deal. It's a memorandum of understanding, but the idea is they're going to be providing a lot of the liquefied cooling technology around these GPUs. I don't know if they get the full 20 billion. I'm seeing conflicting reports, but the stock's up 5% after hours. It was up 17% on the day. The point is Dell, SMCI, HP, Micron, Broadcom, ASML, all of these companies that are fundamentally infiltrated in terms of how Nvidia is able to produce their revenues, TSM, etc. Nvidia needs more chip demand for all of those downstream companies to be part of the integration to allow Nvidia to be what Nvidia is today. And all of them had a move this morning, some of them more aggressive. But the point is, if we are going to be getting hundreds of billions of dollars from the Saudis, and if they're going to be buying Nvidia chips, and if Saudi Arabia is going to have more diplomatic ties with the United States, there was another headline today, $140 billion of defense spending is going to be sold to the Saudis from all the different defense technology companies. That's another reason I think Palantir got some momentum. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, all those companies are going to be able to sell more to Saudi Arabia. I mean, that's just a lot of money, a lot of jobs coming into the United States. And that really is the next era of, I guess, how Trump is going to engage in diplomacy across the world. I mean, he's been in a trade war with every single country for so long. With Saudi, we don't really do a lot of trade, but when it comes to defense technology, when it comes to taking some of their oil money and exporting a lot of the services, the technology, Facebook, Google's, Amazons of the world to the region, that seems to be the next leg of what this relationship would look like. I mean, it got to a point where Trump literally called out Tim Cook for not being in Saudi Arabia.
Thank you very much, because he's putting in $500 billion. TSMC is investing. Where is Jensen, by the way? Where is he? He's standing here. Where is he? I just saw that. Thank you very much, Jensen. I mean, Tim Cook isn't here, but you are. What?
And this was hilarious to me because it's like, you know, he's really praising Jensen for being there and taking the time. He's, you know, throwing a little bit of shade of Tim Cook. But the fact that they were so amicable, if you watch his keynote, they're having fun, they're laughing, like all this stuff. It was one of those things where this was a major, major win for Trump. I didn't know Elon Musk, Alex Karp, Jensen Huang, Lisa Su, Larry Fink, Sam Altman. I didn't know all of these people were going to Saudi Arabia. I thought it was just Trump heading to Saudi Arabia, but apparently all of them ended up in Saudi Arabia. All of them shaking hands with the prime minister and Trump. And it was just a big, big deal for AI in the United States in terms of the level of infrastructure and investment that's going to be happening. One final headline right here on this big event today in Saudi Arabia. Google, Salesforce, and Oracle have committed to invest a total of $80 billion in Saudi Arabia, particularly around data centers. Also, Amazon committed to invest about $5.3 billion in Saudi Arabia. Andy Jassy was also in Saudi Arabia today, shaking hands with Trump and the prime minister. So big day for tech, big day for innovation, big day for jobs growth, big day for investments. A lot of AI names. If you're in them, you've done very well throughout the past couple of days. And really today, we've seen a lot of gap ups in names like Nvidia, Amazon, Palantir, etc. Exciting day to be an investor, and a very exciting day to be an investor inside of the AI tech space. All right, some macro news. CPI came in at 2.3 versus 2.4%. That is very good. Why is that good? Because that means inflation is coming down for the third month in a row. What does that mean for rate cuts? Look, we talked a lot about rate cuts yesterday and what it means for Jerome Powell and the Fed. Fed future probabilities have a rate cut for June at 8.2%. I think they were at 7% yesterday, even with CPI coming in lower than expected. We were not able to gap up meaningfully. Bond yields are up right now. Not the best thing, but also not the worst thing. People are selling bonds to buy stocks. Makes sense. They're going more risk on, but that is an issue because we have to refinance our debt. Bond yields go up. 10-year goes up. Not good for mortgage rates, auto rates, all that stuff. So the issue is Powell's got to cut rates. And if Powell doesn't cut rates, again, I'm just going to reiterate what I said yesterday. I think the market's going to start to, or not just the market, but the American people are going to start to feel that, hey, if I have my job and my stocks are up and inflation's coming down, if all three of those things are happening, I'm not going to blame Trump. I'm going to end up blaming the guy who is being a bit stubborn about rate cuts. So that's the issue right here. Trump today tweeted after the conference in Saudi Arabia. He said, no inflation and prices of gasoline, energy, groceries, and practically everything else are down. The Fed must lower the rates like Europe and China have done. What is wrong with Too-Late Powell? Not fair to America, which is ready to blossom. Just let it all happen. It will be a beautiful thing. I think Trump's right about this. I think he's right. I think Powell is being too aggressive on having rates where they are. I don't think we're going to get the June cut because I think he's going to be stubborn. I do think July is more likely. I think if we don't get at least 25 bips cuts before the fall, before September, it's going to be, it's going to get people thinking, why is he being so restrictive? Now, one could say, wait a second, we still have tariffs on China, tariffs on the EU, tariffs on the rest of the world. That's going to increase prices. That's going to be inflationary. Sure. But if people stop spending because of these massive increases in prices that everyone is so afraid about, we're going to get less demand. we're going to get more layoffs. That will be deflationary. So I think there will be an offset against the increases of prices. Now, again, if we had 145% tariffs or something like that still in place and we would have these massive increases, I would understand the argument that it would be so inflationary that Powell can't cut into it. In fact, I was like, I thought that argument did make sense when Powell articulated it about a month and a half ago. But that's not reality anymore. We got a deal, kind of. Like, we got some negotiations to get these tariff rates to come down. China wants to make a deal. They can't survive without our consumer. We can't survive without their cost of labor. We want to make a deal as well. So if we're all going to make a deal, we know it's inevitable. And Powell knows that Trump's going to make some deals as well. And he knows that there's no way Trump wants to have these crazy tariff rates across the world. I think it would behoove Powell to be looking at what's going on in inflation data, which showed, again, 2.3% headline versus 2.4. 2% is their magic target number. We get to 2.1, 2.2, stay at 2.3, we probably don't need a federal funds rate at 4.5. So from that perspective, good CPI data. We got more data this week. We got to get Powell to be on the side of cutting rates. Hopefully he does soon. I don't expect it in June. Hopefully we get it in July. But regardless, if we get a rate cut, this market's going to get even more exciting. But we got to get Powell to get on board with getting a rate cut. And we can't have him say, I need to see more weakness to get a rate cut. Because when there is a recession and then you cut into it, well, yeah, it's obvious you should have cut rates. The time to do it, what makes you a legendary Fed, is if you're able to do it before it happens. You have to be able to time it, and it's not easy. I wouldn't want the job. It's a very hard job. But at some point, I think you got a lot of people saying there's enough data where even if we're already late, we shouldn't get even more late in terms of ending up getting a cut. And so if that cut happens sooner than later, then that's probably the best situation given where inflation is headed right now. So CPI coming down. Not the worst thing in the world for the Fed. All right, last topic of the day is hoodie. Incredible day for Robinhood. Robinhood acquired a company called WonderFi in Canada. About $1.4 billion of AUC on the platform. This is a crypto derivative options trading platform. It's not a stock trading platform in Canada. It is crypto. I kind of don't care what it is. I'm just happy that Robinhood is finally making an entrance into Canada. I think this is their first step of being able to get the regulators on their side, being able to do what they need to do to get Canadians to be introduced with the brand. They have an office in Toronto in terms of having employees, but they don't actually have a presence in terms of a consumer-facing product inside of Canada. I think it's time. And so they acquired them for $180 million. They brought over $1.4 billion in AUC, and they paid $180 million, which Robinhood is very good at. They find a way to bring over a ton of assets by paying very little. And them being a tech company kind of helps them to be able to negotiate, have the leverage, and have the fixed cost to make this happen. And the stock was up 10% on the day at $63. We are very close to all-time highs on Robinhood. Now, why did the stock move as much as it moved today? So the first reason we talked about, they acquired a crypto exchange in Canada. I think the market likes that. Number two, Coinbase got into the S&P 500 yesterday. I think the market's thinking, hey, Robinhood's probably going to get into the S&P 500 later this year as well. So why wouldn't we kind of buy this before it inevitably gets in? So maybe that's also creating some momentum. Coinbase was up 20% on the day. So congrats to Coinbase. Number three, there's a high beta against the S&P 500 and Bitcoin. Robinhood having that high beta. So if both of those had a big pullback when Robinhood fell to 30 back in April, both of those have recovered a lot of their losses. Bitcoin above 100,000 and the S&P 500 erasing their entire 2025 losses. So Robinhood benefiting from that as well. All that volatility helping Robinhood. And then finally, we got their May metrics today. Their April metrics, and the April metrics were incredible. 120,000 funded accounts, 109 billion assets up year over year. They have now 232 billion assets under custody in total. I think that'll get to 500 billion in the next year and a half. 6.8 billion in net deposits, their second highest month ever. 28.9 billion in cash sweep. They make a spread on all the cash they have. That's up 51% year over year. 158 billion in equities trading volumes, all-time high. 168 million option contracts traded, all-time high. 8.4 million margin balances. That's up 105% year over year, down a little bit month over month because people were deleveraging in April. And then crypto, 8.6 billion in crypto volumes. That's down 15% year over year. That was the only metric that was down on a year over year basis. I expect that to rebound in May now that Bitcoin is back above 100,000. So big day for Hoodie, big day for Nvidia, big day for Palantir. Robinhood deserved the momentum. They took this thing down to 45 after Q1, which was a monster Q1 of 114% year-over-year EPS growth and 50% revenue growth. So it didn't deserve to be there. Bought the dip at 45. I bought the dip. It wasn't really a dip. I bought it at 54 on Friday. This is one of those stocks. Someone asked me today, hey, Amit, how long are you planning to hold the stock? I want to grow old with the company. I have zero reason to sell this stock outside of hedging or, if I need to sell to pay for some, I had to pay for some taxes this year, so I had to sell some shares. But outside of that, I will grow older. I will hopefully make more money. I will deposit that money into Robinhood. There's millions of other people that are going to be in my position, right? That they're in their late 20s, early 30s. They're making more money. They're putting that money into Robinhood. They're trading more on Robinhood. Robinhood's coming out with banking. Like, there is zero desire I have to get out of this stock. And one of the main reasons is Vlad and the team have shown me that they are going to be on the cutting edge of innovation forever. As long as Vlad is the CEO of that company, they are not going to stop innovating. And so even if the evaluation might be aggressive, which if you look at the forward growth estimates, it's really not that aggressive. It's, it's 25 times 2026 earnings, which is not crazy at all. If you believe Robinhood has the ability to grow that earnings over the life cycle of all their millions of customers that are growing their net worths and their incomes as well, it's just a no-brainer, in my opinion, to be long Robinhood, long the stock, long the company, long the thesis, long the idea of wealth transfer, and long America, because people on Robinhood are investing in America. And if America succeeds, the assets under custody on Robinhood will continue to succeed. I mean, one fun fact, Nvidia and Palantir are 2 of the top 10 holdings on Robinhood's platform. Nvidia and Palantir both had monster days. A lot of retail investors own Nvidia and Palantir on Robinhood. Again, two of the top 10 stocks owned on the platform. All of us that own Nvidia and Palantir, you might be buying calls, you might be selling some puts, you might be taking some profits, you might be buying more. Like, all of that volatility based on those 2 names alone benefits Robinhood, and Robinhood has nothing to do with Nvidia and Palantir theoretically, but because they built such a good platform and because retail loves owning their stocks, their assets on that platform, those 2 names having a big move increases the overall AUC on the platform, which is massive for Robinhood as a company. So overall, incredible day. Thank you, everybody, for being part of the stream on the market open, market close. It gives me the most joy in the world to be able to do this every single day. I cannot express how grateful I am every single day to be able to wake up and speak to people and hopefully make the markets a little bit more easier to understand and to get everyone to be part of this community and to enjoy the process of what it means to allocate capital, what it means to deal with the gut-wrenching types of volatility as a community. It's more fun to lose money together because you kind of have a little bit of a support system, and it's way more fun to make money together because we get to celebrate. A lot of people in the chat said they hit big milestones today. Let me know in the comments. I would love to know what milestones you guys hit today, if you've hit any milestones this year. But someone said they hit their first 100K. It's a big deal, dude. It's a big freaking deal. Most Americans, and this is probably true across the entire world, but most Americans don't have $500 in an emergency savings account. So being able to have $100,000 invested, very, very big deal. Thank you, everybody, for watching the channel. Thank you all for being here. Incredible day in the markets, and we'll continue to cover it every single day. Bye, everybody.